Oh, look at your fancy glass.
Yeah, I have
So
a little.
fancy.
It's the only one I could find.
You have to have some fun.
Yeah.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Metacontext. We are your hosts. I'm Graham McCarthy, CTO and co-founder of Soapbox. With me, as always, is Brendan McEachran, CEO and co-founder of Soapbox as well. We have a jam-packed event for you today. Brendan, what are we doing?
Similar as always, you crushed the intro. We got Monday metrics. I think there's like an interesting story a little bit here today in our metrics. We got some tweets. Graham's got a Twitter thread for us, which will be interesting. And I was in all caps. So we'll see what happens. And we have a really big product update. It's not yet out, so I think it'll be interesting just to document some of our thoughts and hopes and dreams for it. And then in a couple episodes, we'll see where we right, where we're wrong, what did we learn. There's a lot of stuff we can anticipate with this one, so I'm excited to kind of unpack your brain on what we should do based on that anticipation. Then that's it. That's episode 7.
Let's dive in.
We'll open it up. I changed some things a little bit just based on like how I have felt a little bit. So maybe I'll like just scroll to the end and come back. Like when I think about kind of prepping a little bit for YC, I'm trying to like optimize. My assumption for YC is that we're going to be doing a lot more weekly metrics updates for folks.
Yeah.
And so I wanted a way to just almost like screenshot and send and not have to.
That you can just send with that explains everything and gives the feels without having to actually go into details. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and just something that was a little bit less like update energy heavy, and so I've been like slowly chipping away at something like this. I think this is pretty decent. Like, to be honest, I kind of feel like I can just run our town halls off of this at this point. What I've got is our weekly data going back 90 days. The team doesn't have to change anything they're doing, and then I've just got a little spark line of like what the trend lines are, and it goes green if last week is beating, I think, by a couple percent the previous month, and it goes red obviously if it's not. And then mark, I'm going to be doing something to this. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do something to this so we can report cash burn and zero cash date as well in a similar view without showing the team. I don't think that's like, we're pretty transparent up until those things.
I do like all of the graphs because I think they do tell a good story, but I think you're right. For you to prepare for Y Combinator for like a weekly dashboard, this is perfect.
Yeah.
It's a good job.
And then the other thing that we did here is like, I just tried to zoom in on things that we are actually worried about improving. And so like, we're not worried about improving our app store rankings. We're not doing any of that stuff. So, with marketing, I was like, what are like, let's focus our measurement energies on the stuff that we're trying to improve. Because this is going to sound bad, but like, I don't necessarily want to give the team credit for things they don't do, right? Like, say we get featured in TechCrunch, or say our Chrome extension gets featured because we just brought in a ton of new reviews and we get a ton of new installs and signups. Is that, should we be giving credit to marketing for that? I mean, to some degree, but like, hey, if we're trying to move this one metric, let's just focus on that one metric. Right?
Yeah, and that's a good call out because I think like we're not focused much on the Slack experience or the MS Team Store experience. So you're only talking about web signups specifically. So yeah, that's good.
And I'm kind of sick of like complaining that like, oh, Teams had a big spike or a dip. And so, there's additional fluctuation that's hard to tell. So I was like, you know what, let's just pull that out. So I did that. And then so I kind of mirrored that over here. And then as I was kind of in the process of doing that, I was like, do I really need to do it this way? Or is like this effectively the same thing?
I think it's good holistically when you're talking to a team and you're talking about each metric individually. But like for a town hall, you need them to focus on one thing at a time. So I think that the slides do help do that. Because if you're asking the team to focus on this slide, when you talk, they'll probably just be looking at all the numbers. What are these dates? Oh, this goes back 3 months ago. That's a cool looking thing. So they're not really focused on what you're trying to actually convey.
Yeah. The other thing is like focusing on templates content, because that does convert for us. So a mix of like, let's get more traffic and let's focus on more traffic that converts, which I think will be good. Some other experiments we're trying are like lots and lots of impressions on our posts on the Google page. Then we have a click-through rate from Google to us. And so are there sweeping changes we can do to just increase our click-through rates on some of these posts, right? Like maybe we're getting enough impressions, but our click-through rate isn't high enough. So can we just change the title of the post?
That's one of the things I think that your team has done a good job the last couple of weeks, like to I guess I'm not sure if if I step back, they hadn't really done a lot of experimentation over the last, like I'd say, 9 to 12 months previous.
Yeah, it's been a bit. Yeah.
And now I think we're finally in a mode where we can start to do that again, and we're now seeing upticks because they're actually analyzing the content, making like small tweaks, like here's a button color change, here's a title change, is this comparing different A/B tests. I think it's actually working for you. Getting back to that, I think is helpful. It's going to help drive your numbers. And then on product, we're going to do the exact same thing in a couple weeks, so we'll also have hopefully the same results.
Yeah, I think getting both groups into that will be a good thing. I still want them to make, like, I don't think product can do this as much, but I think marketing can make major changes. It'll be like, oh, I want to change a button color, I want to change this, or I want to change that. And it's like, well, we're not really learning anything other than like people click these colors more or less, and that's whatever. Like, I would rather us change one sentence description of what we do. Why? Like, vastly. Not like, hey, we're an app to help manage your teams via meetings, but like, if that's A, B is like, the all-in-one solution for bosses. Like, I just made that up. Like, it's probably terrible, probably does worse, but like, there's at least a major conceptual difference between the two of those.
Do you think you need to give them that allowance, like to say, hey, you can change our tagline, to let them start thinking in that realm, or do they think that that's something they just can't touch?
I don't think I need to do that to my team currently.
Because I've found in my team, sometimes in the past, there's areas that they think is just like can't be touched. It's like, this works, we're not messing with it. When in reality, it's I just want the number to go up. So if touching that danger zone helps the needle rise, then go for it.
I think it's more like, this isn't broke, let's not fix it approach than it is like, there's like a sacred thing here that Brennan likes. I think the whole team knows Brennan doesn't like anything.
Right. But they know that now.
I'm not happy about it. And no matter what the current state is, I'm not going to be happy with it. So,
well, one thing I know, like back in the day, we wanted purple buttons to power our payments.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a funny point.
So,
is that a sacred cow?
I really like it. It converts. So, I think
pink would probably be better.
Pink would probably be better, actually. So I think I would immediately be like, cool, switch it all to pink.
So that's interesting. I think the other interesting thing this week, and maybe this is actually more on this slide or maybe the next slide, is like, people were using it. Maybe let's jump here. Like, people were using it. This is 3 or 4 conversations. I'll give you a couple stories. One was he's been using this for a long period of time, loves us. He uses it for one or two team meetings and his one-on-ones. And his execs were like, our calendars are a mess. And so we're getting all of our EAs to do a major month-long project to reorganize our calendars so that we have 1 day free per week of no meetings. You and I do that all the time, right? But like, it took like a month for them to like figure this out. And our point of contact over there was like, hey, you should maybe just check out Soapbox. So they did. They were like, oh my God, wow. They sucked it in. The whole exec team started using it with all their direct reports, and they like figured it out. Even though like technically he's the admin on that account, he's like, I have no idea how many people actually use this now, because it's like wildfire spread since that event, which I didn't even know about. He was like, you probably know, you probably saw on our account. I was like, nope. What are you talking about?
Nope.
And then I had another one. She was a product manager over there, and she's like, I use it a lot, but it's just me and my boss. Like, no one else really uses it here. I'm like, no, you have like 45 active users in the past 30 days using it. She's like, oh, but she's type A. She's super organized. Yeah. She's like, every meeting where I know the person has Soapbox, I use it, because otherwise I just put reminders in my calendar. I think these like type A people that you find on teams are like, we need those people. Those are people.
They're champions. Yeah.
She was great.
It sounds amazing that like even didn't know like how like active his teams were.
Yeah, he's like I can check, right? And then he pulled it open, he looked at org settings, and he was like, oh, anything else about metrics that like pops into your head. Spent a lot of time on metrics. I think the main thing, if I look over here, is we pumped into the green on most of our metrics, but I feel like the panic button was already hit.
Yeah, last week we hit the panic button when we hit 0 in our NPS. Yeah. First time ever. This is global NPS. It's not specific cohorts, so it's every single person who could touch the product. It's like not the one we would probably use as a success indicator of like, these are paying customers or these are new customers. It's just everyone.
This is like the like invisible hand of the market on like, this is the same, like if you just talk to your customers, like it sorts itself out. No one wants to do a bad job in front of like face to face with a person. It's pretty easy to do a bad job and metrics.
Yeah, you can't hide.
You can't hide.
Yeah. When you're talking to customers directly, you are the face. So you represent the company. You'll take that hit internally, and then ideally you bring that back to the team to fix whatever the problem is.
Which I feel like does actually probably, I haven't even seen what you've selected here, but probably takes us nicely into this rant.
I think it does. Let's go to your tweet first.
Does it? Okay.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect transition. Yeah, so you posted a tweet, and I'd love for you to talk about not just the tweet itself, but also what kind of like sparked it with this the show that you were on.
Yeah, so Ramley is I'm smiling because he's a guy I actually tried to poach like 3 times. And clearly unsuccessfully. So he's managing director of Product Led, and him and Wes slowly have just become buddies because we help out wherever we can, and give a testimonial for the book or give feedback on it or speak at their summit or whatever. And anyway, so we were going on about like Clubhouse or whatever, and Twitter's come out with the Twitter Spaces thing, and he's like, do you want to try a Twitter Space? So I was like, okay, yeah. Like personally, I think Clubhouse doesn't really make sense for it. That's like a really good example of like it's a feature, not an app or platform.
Yeah,
right.
It's an app on a bigger, or a feature on a bigger platform versus its own standalone app.
Yeah. But
it definitely picked up. Like tons of people.
It blew up, but it also imploded. I don't know if you saw the imploded graphs.
I haven't seen anyone talk about it lately, so it must have imploded.
Dude, it was like it got up to like 10 million down. Like it was literally like this, and they raised at $4 billion, and the next month it did this.
I mean, as a founder of that product, you want to raise at the heights there. Although, I mean, now your goals are set to something
to insanity. I mean,
oh man, yeah, okay.
From the like words on the street, Twitter tried to buy them for $4 billion, so they ended up raising with Andreessen for $4 billion.
Whoa. Okay.
So because Twitter tried to buy them for $4 billion, that set the valuation. Andreessen is the only VC setting, so it's all just been internal. Some of the most interesting things about Clubhouse to me has been the merging of followings. Like this is where like actual social media networking, like you have social media, you have social, and you kind of layer networking on top of it. Like I think Clubhouse has that ability. The issue was they didn't have the network, and so they were stealing Twitter's network, which a whole bunch of people have done before. And I think on this one, like the new Twitter product guard was like, no. The other group that's doing that is Substack. So Substack, which is Andreessen backed.
I love Substack.
Yeah,
big fan.
So they've been, their whole graph is built on Twitter. Twitter's like, no. So they bought a company, Review, which is a Substack competitor, and they've rolled that in. You probably saw an ad for it, timely place, when you did your thread.
I see Substack competing against Medium primarily.
Way more competing against Medium. I agree. It was the Blogspot founder, who was a co-founder of Twitter.
Yeah, Ev, right? Ev Williams, is that the guy?
So he makes Medium and builds off the, you have to sign in with Twitter. So it's networked Blogspot on Twitter. So Twitter lets that happen with Medium, and then Medium kind of takes off. I always thought like Twitter should have made Medium
or just have some sort of connection.
Yeah, like when Bezos and Bill Gates were like, hey, here's a personal update, and they did it on Medium, I was like, oh my God, like Twitter is totally missing the boat here. Then Medium totally shits the bed. I don't know how they shit the bed, but they totally screwed up. Everyone hates Medium now for whatever reason. Substack comes in and is like, all right, cool, we got you, homie.
I like Substack because it's got the newsletter baked in. Like that together it makes sense for me.
It's like almost like a return to 2004. It's like newsletter and RSS combo.
Smashed together. Yeah. And with a paid stream for authors. Like that's awesome.
Except that the authors that are currently there are getting paid by Andreessen Horowitz.
Yeah, that's okay.
Which is totally fine temporarily.
You got to build the network.
And let's see what happens. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I thought about that. I was like, you know what? They're paying authors for retention curves.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, you're right. They're 100% paying just for the people to stick in because they're getting, like the authors are getting paid, so they're going to keep writing. So they're not earning their metrics; they're paying for their. Yeah, metrics.
You just buy retention curve. So you go to someone who has the retention curve, and you say, "I'll buy that curve." Like I wish we could do that because that's the hardest part of any business. If they can really pay for that, like what's that worth? I don't know. So Ranley's like, "Hey man, do you want to do this thing?" I'm like, "Okay." So he DMs me. He's like, "You want to do this thing, marketing rant?" I was like, "Sure, 100%. Happy to try it out with you."
It's a great name for a show, the Marketing Rant. Perfect. It's
great
all I ever hear from you is
rants.
So this is a perfect.
Yeah, he's like, "Do you have a marketing rant?" I just started yelling at him in Twitter DMs. He's like, "All right, you're booked."
And he yelled in all caps, which is perfect.
And I thought that was a great way to like brand it too, like while he was on there. So he sets up this like Twitter space or whatever, and we go live. And my rant was about that people in marketing, and it's a shocker to me, but people in marketing do not talk to customers. They don't talk to the market. Their job is to talk to the market. And in fact, the people who talk to the market more so than marketing people is salespeople. And then there's massive sales marketing alignment issues. And the marketing people are like, how do we solve these things? Right. And I think the answer is like, listen, if you're in marketing and your job is to talk to the market via mediums, you should probably use the medium with the highest bandwidth of information in order to influence your decisions, which is literally talking to them. If you do that as a marketer, your job is easy. Like I always say this, you probably like sick of hearing it, but like just use their words against them. Just use their words. Like
I've seen it happen live, and you're so good at that.
You just use it. It's like
you hear what they're talking about first. You make some notes. Okay, that specific word, this word, and then you use that back at them.
You just use it.
It's amazing.
It's not hard. You just use their own word. You ask them a question. Hey, what does this mean to you? Okay, cool. What if I pitched it like this? Word, word, word. Yeah. And they're like, I think that's like so important.
It's product market fit right there. I love it. So it says, for every second you spend thinking about what your competitors are doing, you should spend 10 seconds thinking about what your customers want.
Yeah. Shouldn't you, though? I just think they don't do that. I think.
Who are you building your product for? Are you building it for your competitors or for the people who give you money?
Like, it's kind of a nuanced problem internally at companies. I think when you're building a cult, which is bad, but contains a lot of the good elements of a very strong culture, cults have an enemy. Always, right? And they're not, obviously, they're the good part of the equation, but any good culture can get stronger by a mutual enemy. And so in business, competition tends to be the default. If you as founders close your eyes and plug your ears for a month, what's going to happen is your team is going to find competitors and fight them, which is great. It's okay to fight competitors, but they're going to be the competitors that the market probably doesn't know. Like, if the market doesn't know about you, they're not going to know about the mimicries of you, right?
Yeah.
They're going to know about the alternatives to this category. They're going to know about, like, for us, it's paper and pen, it's spreadsheets, it's Word docs. And I think, like, the best way to describe what this is like, in my head, dude, it's the movie Seabiscuit, but, like, I can't say that because I feel like that's, like, a weird horse reference.
Yeah, I've never seen the movie, so
and a dated horse movie reference.
Yeah.
I guess but
your parents, so you would be watching shows like this.
Yeah, I know. No, but basically this is like playing not to lose versus playing to win. Mm-hmm. So if you're playing not to lose, you are looking behind you. You're like, what do I got it, right? Playing to win, you don't make those behaviors. Like you're not playing defense, you're playing offense. And playing offense means you don't sit there and worry about what other people are doing to you. You're not reacting what's happening to you. You're causing the reaction for other people. And so like the movie Seabiscuit, I'll just finish that because I brought it up. I haven't shared that with anyone.
I love it. I love that you're talking about Seabiscuit.
The movie Seabiscuit, good movie, by the way. You should watch it. Stars Spider-Man, the OG Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Tobey Maguire. Is that his name?
Tobey Maguire? Tobey Maguire. I love Tobey Maguire. Dude. Oh, man, Spider-Man 3 is amazing.
I know.
I love that movie. I love it.
Dude, watch Seabiscuit tonight. Okay, Seabiscuit. Seabiscuit is the name of a horse. Okay. He's not a racing horse. He's not a racing horse?
No, I thought it was a racing horse.
No, he's racing, but he's not a purebred horse that's built. He's
like the underdog. He's like Rudy.
Yeah.
He's the Rudy of horse racing.
Absolutely. Like. Okay. In the movie, I have shivers, Graham. Okay. In the movie, Seabiscuit knows. Like, Seabiscuit knows it's racing. I'm sure the horse kind of knew it was in races. But in the movie, you get a good sense that, like, Seabiscuit wants to win. Okay. He's a winner who has all the cards stacked against them. Seabiscuit does better when horses are in front of him. That I won't ruin the movie because you got to watch the movie. But he does better when there are horses in front of him than he does when there's a horse behind him. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why, which I won't get into. But you can be a very successful challenger brand. You can be a very successful company by looking at what others are doing and saying they all suck. Look at me. But at a certain point, you get into the lead and you got to change what you're doing, and it's not what other people are doing. And like the tech example of this is Apple, right? It's Mac versus PC to whatever they're doing now, which I don't know what they're doing now, but PC's not catching up as far as I know. And if you end up doing Mac versus PC today as Apple, you actually... You're talking about
those commercials specifically, right? Whereas Mac versus PC, they were cool commercials.
They were great at the time.
Doing that today, it's like, why are you doing that today?
You're actually taking a step back.
Who cares about computers? Yeah, it's like, now I have my computer here on my phone and my watch, and like,
And like
my headphones.
Like, what do you Mac versus like you
What's
know
a
who does
computer?
Mac versus PC? Android does that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Google does that. Oh, you want cool photos with battery life,
Yeah, because
whatever.
Apple's in the lead.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Next.
That show, by the way,
ranting
was
this
called
episode.
Marketing Rant, and you now know why it's called Marketing Rant. Okay, so
Yes.
Graham tweets a thread.
My first thread. This
There's
is the
the first
first time
thread.
I've used the new Twitter, which I call it new Twitter because it allows more than 140 characters,
Yeah.
and you can like reply to your own tweets.
Yep.
Did
Yep.
that.
And you
Yep.
can retweet your own tweets. It's very strange. Okay, so you are reading HBR.
Yeah, every so often I read like a nice fancy
Cruise through.
magazine article.
Cruise
This
through.
is actually an older article.
Yep.
It's from a while back. I think actually we posted a blog post about this a long time
Mm-hmm.
ago, and then my wife brought it up, and then I was like, oh yeah, that was actually a pretty good article. So I went through some of the stats.
Yep.
And I talked about like how how CEOs spend their time,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it was like, hey, this is perfect. Let me like post this thread. It's a cool article. I think it's still relevant to today. It has a bunch of good metrics in it, which I love metrics-driven articles.
Mm-hmm.
It feels more scientific for me. And then I just threw in the one-liner there around CEOs confess that 1-hour meetings could be cut down to 30 minutes, even 15 minutes. And I feel that with all of my meetings half the time. So I'll preface with, I think there are moments where you do want to catch up with your team to be like, hey, how are you doing? Like on a human level. But then when you're talking about the work, a lot of it's just status updates. You don't really need that if it's all done ahead of time.
Yeah.
You just want to get into the meat of the conversation.
Okay, we don't necessarily have time for this, but let's spend 3 minutes on it. Upcoming product update.
This has been a like in design for the last little bit of time. We know we want to make a big change to our product. Historically, we've been very much focused on the agenda side of things, not so much on how those agendas appear in your calendar and that kind of relationship between your calendar and your agendas. And so we've actually fully changed the entire interface of the app so that your calendar is front and center, and that's how you'll now interact with Soapbox. I think it is the smartest decision we've made in like a year.
Yeah.
We should have done it a long time ago, but at the same time, I think we learned a lot in the process. Like this is where we talked to the customers. We didn't just like look at what all of our competitors were doing. We really focused in on what the customer wanted, and I think this is exactly the experience they want. So Brent sharing to you here. I think it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, I think like if I can replay it back in our head a little bit of all the different topics we've also talked about. Like one was we did the Chrome extension. I don't know why we did the Chrome extension initially. I have no idea what spurred that, but we did that. Everyone's copied us. And somewhere along the way, customers were like, well, we want it to work really well in calendar. And so we did that. And then continued to iterate on it, and then it almost became like a de facto way that our most active users were using it. They're like, I open up a calendar, I click the button, I'm in the place I want to be, and I do the things I want to do. And as more and more people started using that and liking it, they're like, I don't even go to the web app. I'm like calendar, event, agenda, calendar, event, agenda, calendar, event, agenda. And so I think it came to us where we're like, let's not fight that. Like, what if we can take like a subset and almost like, you know, calendar is very event focused. We're very agenda focused. And our Chrome extension on the calendar app was like, you know, like 20% of it. Like, what if we kind of flip the script a little bit? And I think from a mental model perspective, that makes a lot of sense. I think the more we got into calendar syncing and the more we got into all these things, we're like, this is like, it's inevitable, and, you know, let's do a good job of it. And then, you know, we played around with it and we kind of felt like the right time. I think, actually, to be honest, I think competitors got here first. We're coming here second. I actually think we're doing a better job in some ways, but like we're now at the point where, other than the fact I know some competitors have this, my memory of it is theirs is very complicated. And what we're talking about now, it actually is more to do with like what we need done. Yeah. So we haven't launched this yet. At some point we're going to rewatch this and we're going to launch it. What metrics do you think that this helps, and what issues do you think that this causes?
I think what it does is it helps with retention, because when you first open up the app, you'll understand what it is, because you'll see your calendar events and you'll know, I click on this, I have my agenda notes, so the flow will make sense. It's going to increase that. So I think our monthly active users will increase because of that. Mm-hmm. I think what it hurts, I think finishing meetings is still not like,
something's wrong there.
Top of mind here.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to have a long list of items and you're going to get frustrated with us. So then you're going to talk to us, and NPS will drop a little bit because of that. NPS goes up because this is a different way of using the app, but then I think we'll take a hit long term if we don't solve the finished meeting flow.
Yeah, or get better at some of that. Yeah, I think the most impactful thing this could do, I don't know if it will, but the most impactful thing it could do is activation. Like if we can activate more users, more of our signups. I think that will be the biggest. So I'm kind of with you in the, like, does it help activation? Does it help MAU? If it helps activation, great. We'll have like a multiplier effect on monthly active users. If it doesn't help activation, I still think it helps MAU because I think it helps retention. For the same reason that, like, you know, some of the other things we discussed, like, you know, I set up these meetings great, but then my life goes on and I look at my calendar and, oh, yeah, I should probably get this in here too. So it depends on some of the growth tests we now do with this new opportunity, but I think we'll do those and I think they'll be good. I think the issues it will create, some of them we know is external meetings and guest users. Like some of those things, hopefully, you know, we're right about. I think it will create new expectations for things that we've hypothesized and done sketches around on, like future meetings, knocking to enter, deferring items. Like I think we'll have a whole new slew of expectations for, like, I want to scroll down 6 months and pick this marketing sync and add something to this marketing sync on, you know, on June 7th, which isn't today, and cue that.
And going back in time, you want to see the past meeting
and probably going back in time
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We create that expectation for
so
sure.
We might, like, I think this will help NPS, but you're right. Like maybe
we set a new expectation, which means we might get dinged for different reasons than we're getting dinged right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think so. Outro.
Yeah.
We got to say bye.
That's it.
This has been episode 7 of MetaContext, the show where Graham and I talk about the thing we talk about every single week, which is our business, currently called Soapbox. See you next time. Like and subscribe so that we get these things out. No, they're already going to be out by the time you like and subscribe. Like and subscribe so we continue to do this, because if we don't get enough likes and subscribes...
If you haven't liked and subscribed, hit that like button below. Yeah. Sign up for our newsletter. Share this with a friend if you think they'll be interested in us growing our business in the open. We're doing this as we're doing it. If we're successful, hopefully, then you'll have seen the process and see how messy it is.
It's up and down, for sure.
Having. This is fun. This
great. Episode to last episode is part of the up and down. That's not as extreme as it gets, but like my mood last week to my mood this week is pretty different.
Yeah, that probably comes down on our energy. Although by the end of last episode, we were all pretty hyped up and excited. So yeah,
which is why you need a co-founder.
Agreed. Because who else do you talk to?
How
you need
else do you get
to actually understand the details as to why you feel the way you feel through this process.
All right, we're going to sign off. I'm going to get these out. Graham, here's my commitment to you. We got to get these out before YC starts. Shake on it.
That was good.
All right. Okay.
Good timing.